Welcome back to Game Crunch, everyone. Keeping you up to date with the latest in the video game world. Now, today, my microphone died, so I've got to use a different microphone, so I apologize if there's any sort of sound discrepancies, anything sounds a little funny, but we got a couple things we got to talk about, including a little bit of drama going on between Microsoft and Google over whether or not Microsoft is allowed to sell their Xbox titles through their own Android app. More on that in a second. And then on top of that, there's some market research done recently that has basically discovered that most of these mobile apps that have loot boxes in them are basically just ignoring the regulations outright. More on that in a second. But of course, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you'd like to stay up to date with the latest in the video game world, give Game Crunch a subscribe. If you find this information helpful, give the video a like, and let's just get right into it. So let's start with this ongoing battle between Xbox and Google. Back in November, a US judge ruled that Google must allow third-party app stores on its Android platform. Xbox was quick to announce that by November, players could buy and launch games directly from the Xbox app. But that hasn't been happening yet, and Xbox claims it's because Google requested an emergency stay to appeal the ruling. Xbox says the features are built and ready to go live, but the court is delaying, holding them back. However, Google disputes this. According to a spokesperson, Xbox has always had the ability to sell games through its app, and it's simply choosing not to. Google also cited security concerns as its reason for opposing the court ruling. This legal standoff all stems from the Epic Games antitrust lawsuit against Google, which resulted in this court ruling. If enforced, the decision could reshape Android's app ecosystem. Meanwhile, Xbox's plans for a mobile game store are on hold, at least for now. So whose side are you on here? Is Xbox actually being blocked, or is Google right to prioritize its own security? Let me know down in the comments. So to me, it's pretty clear in this situation what's happening, and I think Google is lying essentially here as to what's happening, because when you think about it, big business and corpos, they're always going to do what's in their own best interest. They're always going to make as much money as possible. So it doesn't make any logical sense why at this point Xbox wouldn't want to launch and sell their own games directly through their Android app instead of paying Google a cut every time it's done through the App Store. So I don't know, I'm kind of more on the side of Microsoft here. So next up, let's get into this BBC investigation that shows that most of the mobile online games are basically breaking regulation when it comes to loot boxes. In the UK, it's required to clearly disclose loot boxes in ads, but the report shows this isn't happening. Out of the top 26 grossing games with loot boxes on Google Play Store, only 2 mention loot boxes in their ads. The rest bury the information deep in their store listings, often behind like a tiny info button. Critics are calling this a major failure of transparency. Adrian Hahn, who's a developer at Six to Start, said the games industry ignores these regulations to maximize profits, often at the expense of vulnerable players, including children. And the research backs this up. So Leon Zhao from the IT University of Copenhagen found that around 90% of games with loot boxes fail to disclose them in any of their ads. With overspending on loot boxes already a pretty big issue, this lack of transparency only makes things worse. So do you think stricter regulations are needed, or is the current system fair? Let me know down in the comments. So to me, this is kind of one of those cost of doing business situations. So you have to kind of understand that when these companies do this type of stuff, so when they decide that they're not going to put the warning inside of their app like they're supposed to, they've already factored in the cost of the fine versus how much extra money they can make off of these loot boxes. So they've already factored in these fines as basically just the cost of doing business, and they've decided, hey, we can make more off loot boxes than we pay in fines, so it's still profit, so why put the warning there at all? But that's all I've got for you today, so of course, let me know what your thoughts are down below about this whole Xbox and Google sort of war back and forth. Who do you think's in the right? Who do you think's in the wrong? And what do you think of this whole loot box regulation? Are you even surprised that these companies are just going and doing whatever they're gonna do? And I want to thank you guys all for tuning in again. If you missed yesterday's news, probably gonna be somewhere over here, maybe another random video over here. You guys have a good weekend. I'll see you Monday.